All right, today we're cracking open one of the greatest puzzles of the 20th century. We're talking about the story of a machine that was supposed to be absolutely unbreakable, and the secret war waged by the people who dared to try.
So let's kick things off with this really cryptic quote from Winston Churchill himself. Now, of course, he wasn't actually talking about geese. He was talking about the code breakers at Bletchley Park. Their work was the golden egg, intelligence so valuable it could literally win the war. And the fact that they never cackled? Well, that secret was kept for decades.
So what was this impossible puzzle? It was the Enigma machine. For Nazi Germany, this little box was the key to everything. It secured pretty much all of their high-level communications during World War II. A true marvel of electromechanical engineering.
And you have to understand, the German High Command was completely convinced that the Enigma cipher was impenetrable, totally unbreakable. This belief gave them this incredible sense of confidence, a huge strategic advantage that let them coordinate their armies and U-boats with what they believed was total secrecy.
So why were they so confident? Well, look at this number. Just look at it. That is the number of possible settings for a standard military Enigma. That's nearly 159 quintillion. To put that into perspective, trying to just guess the right combination, it would be a monumental task even for today's supercomputers. For the Allies back then, it was just flat out impossible.
So how did this thing even work? Well, think of it like an insanely complex substitution cipher. Every single time you press a key, an electrical signal goes on this wild journey. First, it zips through a plug board, which swaps one letter for another. Then it gets scrambled through 3 rotors that are constantly spinning. After that, the signal hits a reflector at the back, which sends it all the way back through those rotors again, but on a totally different path. Finally, a lamp lights up showing you the encrypted letter. And here's the genius of it. Because those rotors click forward with every single key press, the entire electrical maze is different for the very next letter you type.
But here's the thing, right? No system is ever truly perfect. And for Enigma, there was a ghost in the machine. And that ghost wasn't some random glitch. It was a fundamental part of its design.
It all came down to that component we just mentioned, the reflector, or the Umkehrvalse in German. Now, this thing was actually a really clever piece of engineering. By sending the signal back through the rotors, it meant the machine was self-reciprocal. So if A became Q, then Q would become A. This was great because you didn't need a separate encrypt and decrypt mode. It was simple, it was elegant. But, and this is the big but, that brilliant piece of design created Enigma's single greatest flaw. Because of the way the reflector was wired, a letter could never ever be encrypted as itself. Let that sink in. An A could become a Z, it could become a Q, but it could never ever become an A. Now that might seem like a tiny little detail, but for a code breaker, a hard and fast rule like that is a massive foothold. It's the first crack in the wall.
And you know what? That machine flaw was only half the story. The other half was just good old-fashioned human error. German procedures, which were designed to make things more secure, often did the exact opposite. Operators would repeat message keys, which created patterns. Messages often had predictable content, like daily weather reports, which gave the codebreakers bits of known text to work with. And then, of course, there was just plain laziness. Operators picking super simple keys like AAA or QWE right off the keyboard.
Okay, so you've got a machine with a tiny critical flaw, and you've got operators making predictable mistakes. How do you turn that into a weapon? Well, the answer, maybe surprisingly, doesn't come from Britain. It comes from Poland.
Yeah, the story of cracking Enigma really begins in Poland. Years before the war even started, back in 1932, a brilliant mathematician named Marian Rejewski used some leaked documents and just pure mathematical genius to figure out the secret internal wiring of the rotors. His team even built the first automated code-breaking machines. Then, just weeks before Germany invaded Poland, they made one of the most important decisions of the war. They handed everything, their research, their machines, their methods, over to their British and French allies. It was the most vital head start you could possibly imagine.
So, armed with all this incredible Polish intelligence, the mission at Bletchley Park became crystal clear. The challenge wasn't just theoretical anymore, it was logistical. This was about scale. The Germans were sending thousands and thousands of messages every single day. The question was, how on earth could the Allies build a system to break all of them, every day, fast enough for the intelligence to actually be useful on the battlefield?
To solve this industrial-scale problem, they needed a new kind of weapon. Not a gun, not a tank, but a massive electromechanical detective, designed by brilliant minds like Alan Turing, to hunt for Enigma's daily settings at incredible speeds.
But the creation of this weapon,
The British Bombay machine was, well, it was anything but smooth. The project was, as one of the crypto analysts who worked there remembered it, the subject of long and bitter battles. This was not some clean, simple story of a genius having a eureka moment.
In reality, it was a total scramble, a messy, ad hoc fight against time, money, and even clashing egos. The budget was huge for the time. The manufacturer was already overwhelmed with other war work. You had rival engineering teams fighting bitterly over the best designs. The whole thing was so chaotic that one of the lead code breakers later described the early management of it all as rather amateur.
In the machine they were building, it was an absolute beast. Each Bombay was the 7-foot-tall, 7-foot-wide cabinet that weighed a ton. Inside it had about 10 miles of wire and 1 million soldered connections, all of it clicking and whirring to simulate dozens of Enigma machines at once.
But here's the incredible part. Despite all the chaos, the infighting, the technical challenges, the bombs worked, and the intelligence they unlocked, which was given the codename Ultra, became one of the most important secret weapons of the entire war. It changed the course of history in ways the Germans could never, ever comprehend.
And the results. They were just staggering. By 1943, Bletchley Park and its American allies were deciphering over 80,000 German messages every single month. Let me say that again, over 80,000. That's more than 2,500 messages every single day, giving the Allies this unprecedented, real-time window right into the enemy's plans.
So what was the final impact of all this? I mean, it was profound. Historians estimate that ultra-intelligence shortened the war by at least 2 years, maybe even 4, saving countless lives. Before D-Day, it revealed the entire German order of battle to the Allies. And yet, its existence was so secret it was called Britain's best-kept secret until the 1970s. In the end, the work at Bletchley Park didn't just win battles. It laid the conceptual groundwork for the modern computer and the digital age we all live in now.
And that's really the legacy of Enigma. It was a system that was believed to be perfect, but it was defeated by this perfect storm of mathematical genius, predictable human sloppiness, and just relentless industrial effort. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? In our age of AI and quantum computing, what unbreakable codes are we trusting today? And are we absolutely sure they're as safe as we think?